big focus story. The Kerala High Court observed that the findings of the Sessions Court in Kozhikode on the case related to activist Civic Chandran, who is an accused in a sexual harassment case, cannot be justified. The court also stayed the order granting anticipatory bail to the accused till the appeal was disposed of. The appeal was filed by the state government seeking to cancel the bail order, something that the court agreed on. So let me just put out for our viewers on our screens the statement, the court statement that is on your screens right now. The court said the finding of the Sessions Court order was Section 354A will not be prima facie attracted when the victim was wearing a quote-unquote sexually provocative dress cannot be justified. However, considering the age of the accused, the judge said that he shall not be arrested till the disposal of the appeal. The earlier order, viewers would recall, had vilified the complainant, calling the matter a false case that has been fabricated against the accused by some of the enemies to seek vengeance. So this is the important part of what the High Court said. The court says, prima facie, it appears that there was an improper exercise of jurisdiction by the session judge while granting bail to the accused. Irrelevant material of substantial nature are seen to be relied on to grant bail. The court ordered to post the appeal immediately after vacation. In the appeal, the state government submitted that the observation made by the Sessions Court in Kozhikode that the victim herself is dressed in sexually provocative dresses is illegal. The sexually provocative dressing of a victim cannot be construed as a legal ground for absolving an accused from the charge of outraging the modesty of a woman. So that was underlined strongly enough. But let's just tell our viewers, what was the complaint? What was the original case to begin with? Joining me now on the program, my colleague Vivek Karindalam, who's going to give us more details on what exactly was the complaint. Vivek, over to you. We are given to understand that Mr. Civic Chandran was being prosecuted for 2 cases of sexual offence, and this is the cancellation of a bail order in one of them. Which complaint was this?
Sexually harassed her from a beach in Calicut, and it was on this case that the investigation had begun in the year of 2022. Now, remember, Civic Chandran was an activist, a social, a writer at that point of time, and he is 72 years of age. Now, what happened here was that the complaint was filed 2 years late. Now, also we understand from the sources, within the community, in the social circles, that Civic Chandran has been an serial offender as far as such incidents are concerned. Now, remember, in this particular incident, the complaint was filed in June 2022, and an FIR has been registered. And after that, the complaint, in August 14, that a bail application has been moved by activist Civic Chandran, and he was granted bail. Now, what is even more shocking is that in the bail, which has been given, in the order has been given, the remark has been said. In the remarks, it said that Civic Chandran has been granted bail because Section 354A cannot stand in this particular case because the victim, in this case, was wearing a sexually provocative dress. And also, it said that Civic Chandran was 74 years of age, and hence he cannot commit a crime of this magnitude. So this was the kind of statement that's been given by the Kozhikode Sessions Court Judge Krishna Kumar, and following which we saw the kind of reactions which came from various quarters. The State Women's Commission has taken objection on this. The Kerala government has taken objection, and finally the Kerala government decided to approach the court and quash this controversial remarks, and also said that the bail should be cancelled. Now, the Kerala High Court has cancelled the bail, but it has said that looking at the age of Civic Chandran, he's 74 years of age, he should not be arrested. Whatever said, remember, this was the first case that happened in 2020, and in 2022, in the month of April, there was one more case where a Dalit activist was sexually harassed.
Yes. So 2 cases, Vivek, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. 2 cases, one complaint filed by a Dalit activist, the other by this woman who was attending a program along with Civic Chandran. And there in the beach, she says that sexual advances were made to her. That was the basis of the complaint. And now, of course, the bail has been cancelled by the Kerala High Court after the state government intervened. Now, while granting bail, the Sessions Court, again, like I mentioned earlier, pointed out that the court heavily relied on certain photographs of the victim which were published on social media, and observed that the complainant herself was, like Vivek said, exposing herself with sexually provocative dresses. Therefore, Section 344A will not prima facie stand against these accused. This has the effect of potentially exposing the survivor to secondary trauma. This is what I found interesting for the High Court to actually point out, that what the Sessions Court did with that order amounts to traumatizing the complainant. The order passed by the Sessions judge is beyond his powers. This is another observation made by the Kerala High Court. Citing the top court, the High Court reminded that about the Supreme Court order, the discussion about dress, behavior, past conduct and morals of the victim should not enter the verdict while granting bail to the accused, calling the observation by the Sessions judge judicial indiscipline. The Kerala High Court said it's liable to be expunged. So that's the crux of the matter, and what we are also given to understand is that now the judge of that particular Sessions Court has been transferred to Kollam a day after the Kerala government intervened and moved the High Court against that order. Let me introduce, joining us here on the program is Talish Ray, who's an advocate. I also have another advocate, Charu Khanna, who's a former member of the NCW. Let's welcome both our guests on screen. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Great to have you on The Big Focus. So let me begin with you, Advocate Charu Khanna. I want to begin by asking you, how does it make you feel? Because I shudder to think how far behind are we in this struggle when judges have taken such adversarial position towards women. The order that was passed by the Sessions Court is so heavily skewed in favor of the defense. We here on this program took up this matter very strongly, which is why we're happy to see today that that bail order has been cancelled. Because if you see, the order actually said the complainant was seeking revenge. She was wearing inappropriate clothes, asking for it, shielding the accused literally from every possible side. But are you now satisfied that the state government intervened, and does this give you hope? Or are you disappointed that the complainant had to go through this kind of trauma?
No hope. In fact, I must compliment your channel for raising the issue and the media. If this issue had not been raised, there are many judgments like this in which the accused gets bailed and who's a serial offender like this person. It is understandable if the court had given him on grounds of delay or old age, because those are within the provisions of the CRPC. Those are grounds of which a person can get bail. But what did they do? The court went and held a mini trial, which is totally beyond its powers. It's in a case of bail. The grounds should be totally different. But it went and held a mini trial that what were her clothes, what was her height, he could do this, he could not do this, and went into the merits of the case, which is totally prejudicing the victim. And I think it's really, really unfortunate, because I'm not at all astonished. The judge who has given this order is a male. He's a member of the society. He's a member of this patriarchal society. Every time, whether it's a judge, whether it's a politician, whether it's a celebrity, always the woman's clothes are blamed. And it's really unfortunate that the burden of proof is falling on the victim to prove that why the crime took place. And what should she have done to prevent it? And this victim blaming is really unfortunate. It's just not stopping, as if her dress was the reason for the perpetrator to commit the act. So I think it's really unfortunate. It's not giving me hope, because time and again, these cases are coming. And even if you've seen the case of Goasim, again, the clothes, the chiffon dress, all that was being discussed. So it's really disgusting, if you ask me. But that is the patriarchal mindset in India.
Advocate Khanna, we see that happening, the victim shaming, and blaming the complainant. She must have asked for it. She must have done something wrong to invite this trouble. That element is always there in literally every case. Talish Ray, I want to ask you, the High Court, like I read out, also reminded about the Supreme Court order. There is a clear directive that the dress, behavior, past conduct, morals of the victim should not even enter into the entire, purview while delivering or while granting bail to the accused. The complainant should not be under any scrutiny. But here we see precisely that happening.
Yes, and it's actually unfortunate because if we have to keep in mind the sexual harassment laws in our country, it came via the special power of the Supreme Court under 142, where the Vishaka guidelines was passed way back in 1997. And it took the post-Jyoti Singh Pandey protest for the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. So it just shows a couple of things. It shows, one, that the lower judiciary in some way has failed to absorb what the higher judiciary has laid out. It is the courts that have held and read fundamental rights. And at that point in time, it's also important to point out that if we are to look at the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act or the IPC or the Verma Committee report, at no point in time does the victim's conduct or the victim's dress or the victim's prior history ever come into the definition of what is sexual harassment. So at what level is this, this dilution that takes place? My peculiar problem with the Sessions Court judgment has also been, as my learned friend previously pointed out, is that there has already been a strangulation of by the observations, the rather unfortunate observation. There was a strangulation that took place of the FIR even before the investigation has taken place. Is it a step in the right direction? Oh, absolutely. I mean, the High Court has always done a commendable job, especially the Kerala bench, in terms of its verdicts concerning women. But nonetheless, at the same time, there needs to be a deep think, because the Act itself provides for training. It provides for training as a method of prevention. So somewhere I think there needs to be a relook in terms of understanding, because at the end of the day, it cannot only be about patriarchy being existent in the society.
Yes, but you know, Talish Ray, my concern is that if at the lower court level, this is the kind of orders you have issued, and this is not the first case. There have been so many previous instances where judges have asked the rapist to marry the complainant. There have been instances of judges asking complainant to tie a rakhi, and obnoxious kind of observations, which each and every time we do take up. But I suspect that there would be many such instances, and we cannot always cover everything. But in this particular case, yes, we took up the cudgels. Yes, we questioned this particular order very strongly. But how do we, in a way, how do we address this problem? Should for instance, the commission, the National Commission of Women, Ms. Khanna, that you are a former member of, take a more proactive role? Should the state government intervene each and every time in this manner?
See, I don't think the state government's intervention is required each and every time. But yes, when the judge is appointed, they have to have some kind of orientation which takes place. Because see, judges are also, they're a part of society, and they have the same kind of, like I said, mindset, which may be retrograde, which may not be in keeping with the times, and I would say the constitution, which is providing equality to all. So as far as the Domestic Violence, Prevention of Domestic Violence Act is concerned, there have been numerous, orientations, programs. I myself have been a part of conducting these, and under NALSA, the legal state authorities are conducting, the state authorities. But somehow we are lacking in gender-sensitive programs. I feel at the outset, the judges need to be gender sensitized, because they're all coming from different cultural backgrounds. In a lot of places, men and women don't interact. Some places, women are always covered with the head. So you see, they're carrying their cultural baggage. And once you recognize your cultural baggage, you will be able to give a more just judgment. So it's important for them to understand that, and to understand that the baggage that they're carrying. And this can only be done with the proper training and orientation. So I think the state authorities should need to, and as a part of the training of the judges when they're appointed, they need to undergo this. Because if this is happening at the first level, this is the district judiciary, this is happening at the first level, then the person comes to the High Court. Do you think the mindset will change? In fact, there'll be more regressive judgments. And the person will feel more emboldened to give such judgments. They'll feel that power over women. And then when they come to the Supreme Court, they'll ask the judge, the rapist, to marry the woman. So you see, it's a process. And until you nip the bud and start this orientation and sensitization at the initial level, things are not going to improve. Because we're not doing it at the school level. So at least if you will see where the Sexual Harassment Act is concerned, the Act very clearly says that the burden, it's not only the Act says that every organization with more than 10 people has to have an internal committee. headed by a woman, and they have to conduct programs. They have to put up posters of the
Khanna,
punishment
what
which will
happens
be
is, and
given.
I'll tell you typically what happens. And if you remember Tarun Tejpal case, take MJ Akbar case, in all these situations, most of the time, here you have someone powerful and influential pitted against a woman who's probably, in the initial stages of her career, hoping to grow. And, there's a lot at stake. Even filing a complaint sometimes takes a lot. Even in this case as well, like I reported, it took 2 years for this lady to come up. And then how much more difficult are you going to make it for her? Even at the level of the courts, it's not easy for her to get a redressal, which is why, while you may have the internal complaints committee, while you may have so many other things, look at this situation. Here was an event, it was on a beach, and that is where sexual advances were made. Look at the Tarun Tejpal case, it was inside a lift. So, how do we then, make sure that women who want to complain, but then they face these kind of deterrents? This case itself could be a deterrent. And there could be others in the society telling her, see what happened when she went to court. So how do we address that, Talish Ray?
So there is something known as chilling effect. And what we are going through right now, as you pointed out, Afrida, with number of these cases coming in, what happens is that there is a chilling effect that takes place. And that is where the message is driven across. And with regressive orders such as that came out of the sessions judge about how the victim is dressed, whether they called for it, they asked for it, all of that causes people to go back and rethink about going through the authorities. Having said that, when we are to look at the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, which was passed in 2012, and it's now going to be in the 10th year of its operation, that under Section 19 very well provides for a lot of things, including intensive training. And that intensive training has to start. And at that level, the lower judiciary and the judiciary itself will have to take onus, because it was the judiciary that passed the Vishaka guidelines. It was the judiciary that upheld it for the first time in 1997. And from there, it has to come down to a curriculum level. It has to come down to all levels. It has to come down to even industry standards that must be applied. Look around you. Look at the visual media that's around you. Look at the movies that are around you. It's perfectly normalized. It's supposed to be that thing, right? There is a person who walks into office, depending on how they are dressed, the camera pans in on them. Which serial, which movie can you actually go through without actually cringing at yourself and saying, oh my God, this is harassment? Therefore, I think it's important that we have to lead at some level. And it is places like yours that you need to lead a movement for us to be able to change the ethos. It's not good enough to say that society can't change. I mean, It's like saying that 100 years back, child marriage was accepted. Today, it will be accepted as well. 200 years back, sati was accepted. There need to be change makers that come out and say, I'm sorry, but this is not the way. So if you ask me, this is a step in the right way when we talk about it, because every time we talk about it, there is a victim who's out there who's listening somewhere and says, well, there is justice to be done. Let me go forward. My dignity has been compromised. I will go and take this up. Let me take it forward. And there are groups that are doing, but yes, the government needs to put an additional focus. The Women's Development Corporation, the WDCs, the Women's Commission, all of them need to put this on a front end battle, because this is keeping women away from public spaces. It is keeping away women from workspaces. And it's time that we got them back and said that we respect your dignity.
Absolutely. Very well said, Talish Ray. Ms. Khanna, closing comments to you. I want you to use this platform to tell our viewers, young women could be watching, on what they should do. You were heading the commission. You were a member of the National Commission for Women. If anyone faces this kind of a situation, what are the steps they should follow? Let's go through them once again and inform our viewers about it.
See, continuously, I have been on this campaign of Chuppi Todo. Raise your voice. Your voice matters. Hashtag my voice matters. You have to raise your voice, tell others, because we have seen that it's even difficult to get a rape case registered in some police stations in rural areas. They want you to compromise. Don't back off. Don't come under threat and pressure. Unfortunately, the whole pressure is on women to defend themselves in this country. I cannot say anything else but that. The whole burden of responsibility of your protection lies on you. And if you want to protect yourself, protect your sisters, raise your voice, raise it together.
That's a very valid point. Anything you want to add to that, Talish Ray? What do we need to tell the young women who are watching us, who may have faced a situation, who have still not reported?
Just go in and follow it through. It is not just about you. You see, the perpetrator is not somebody who's going to stop at you. So do it for the sake of others if you can't find courage within yourself. Go ahead, report, find yourselves, organize yourself into movements, organize yourself and come and hit back, because inevitably those that are perpetrators of harassment are also very, very powerful people. So learn to organize and take it up to its entire level. And that's where it is going to move. Remember that this was not an act, that a lot of us stood there at Rajpath and demanded it. And that's how we got it. So you have it within you. If our generation has seen it and generations before us, which have brought about change, it is your responsibility to also carry that mantle forward. And don't let anyone tell you that you deserved it, because no one deserves their dignity to be compromised in any manner, least alone at a workplace.
Yes, absolutely. And, with that, I would like to thank the ladies, but I would certainly like to add here that what the comments that are made, the observations that are made are of very critical importance to all those who are watching us today, because we should not think that one voice will not matter. It does matter. Look at how this case, it did happen. We took it up. The state government intervened, and you had the Kerala High Court intervening and having the bail order cancelled. It may be a first step, it may be a small step. It gives us a ray of hope, which is why, like both my panelists said today, don't be afraid to speak up. We will continue to do that, of course, and we will continue to inform our viewers and take up these cases. Thanks very much, Ms. Khanna and Ms. Ray, for joining us here on this program. This is an important issue that we are taking up on The Big Focus for a reason, to inform, to educate, and also to call out the mischief of those who think they can get away with this, because they certainly can't. The long arm of the law, we do hope, will catch up with you. Well, with that, let's take a very short break. When we return, we'll get you more updates on the recent controversy that has hit Twitter. A Twitter whistleblower filed a complaint last month accusing the social media giant of cyber security negligence. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.